Artifact builds responsible, scalable AI solutions tailored to company strategy. In this episode, we talk about their philosophy of pragmatic agility, the power of impactful partnerships, and why AI is much more than a buzzword.
This is AI Talk with Stefan Lendi.
Today, we dive into how AI can truly make an impact in business. My guest is Michael Wegmüller, co-founder of Artifact, one of the most innovative AI companies in Switzerland and winner of the Digital Innovation of the Year 2024 award. Michael, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
And of course, welcome Dalit Steiger-Göblinger, AI pioneer and founder at Swiss Cognitive here in Switzerland. Thank you for joining us today, Dalit.
Thanks a lot.
Michael, tell us more about Artifact. What is your background? How did it come about that you founded Artifact?
Well, thank you very much for this question. It has been actually a long time dream of myself to become an entrepreneur. But I then started my career at IBM back 20 years ago, where CRM systems were the hot topic. I joined in there and started to build systems, CRM systems, for multiple customers. And as we were starting to collect data on customers, obviously there was also an interest to start to better understand how these customers move, what they are interested in, what their motivations are, and what their behaviors is. So we ended up in building initial descriptive analytic systems and then gradually grow into some sort of prescriptive, trying to predict the future behaviors into cross-selling, upselling opportunities, and so on. So we were quite early on 20 years ago looking into how statistics and mathematics can help with technology to build an additional value. Now, fast forward, I was then asked at IBM to actually build up the consulting practice around data science and artificial intelligence, and ended up then mainly in the consumer products industry, building AI teams or operating organization models which can deliver AI solutions into the various businesses. 4 years ago, as we recall back, it was Corona Wave 2, and we had an impression that the normal business rules, they were probably not holding anymore. The whole economy was put upside down. And we thought that it's going to be a lot of a drive towards data-driven decision-making. And with that as well, small and medium businesses in Switzerland in particular would have a big interest to start to look into machine learning or artificial intelligence-based solutions in order to manage their processes and to manage their business. And that's why we have founded 4 years ago, Artifact. Now we are 15 people, and we are delighted to support our customers. We have currently more than 40 customers in the space around AI, be that from a strategy or then as well mainly on implementation, realizing AI and machine learning based solutions.
I'm curious, Dalit, when did you first hear about Artifact? When did you first encounter Michael?
Actually, and Michael, you have to help me now, but I think it was pretty much at the beginning. I think you were one of the very early use cases that we invited back then at Swiss Cognitive on stage when before Corona we had our physical events sharing experience and sharing use cases. Am I right?
Indeed, yes. A good old time. It was even a time pre-ChatGPT, as I call it, right?
Indeed.
We were still looking at machine learning use cases, and then we had good conversations. Also, how I think also early on we had a conversation how AI should be embedded in the strategies and how it should be also discussed in the board of directors. So really more on the strategic view. I feel in the old age it was pretty much seen as a tech geek thing, right? So you had to be statistician and mathematician and a technology expert to actually start to look into that, to understand it. But gradually we then also saw that it becomes actually a board matter. And that's what also part of the conversation we had early on.
And Dalit, do you remember what, that first impression that you had of Artifact? What potential did you see back then?
10 years ago, we saw already a huge potential in the chance, especially in Switzerland, to reindustrialize most of our industries, most of the topics here. And back then, we didn't have that many founders of AI-driven companies. So when we got into the discussion with Artifact as well as with others, what we really tried is to accelerate them, to open the doors. We had some very interesting board room discussions and sharing their thoughts, and was probably very helpful. Swiss Cognitive as an industry and a technology agnostic company from a neutral perspective, really to show the enterprises and the SMEs, hey, there is a chance, talk to these people, try it out, do the first steps. So we saw a huge potential with them as well as with others.
And Michael, that's exactly what you did. And just a few years later now, you received the Digital Innovation Award 2024 for a project with Switzerland Tourism. Talk to us about that project. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are still very proud, and if I think back at this night in the Hallenstadion in Oerlikon, I still get goosebumps on it. So really cool stuff. So Switzerland Tourism is. They are supporting the tourism destinations with different activities of support. And one of the activities is they're trying with their work to actually get, the reality somewhat reflected with market intelligence studies. So they're investing or conducting quite large-scale market research on the image of Switzerland, but also on the interest and the travel itineraries of tourists that are coming to Switzerland, which is seen as part of the ground truth to map the customer journey end-to-end of tourists throughout Switzerland. And that data sets, or these data sets, they have in it so much value for the different destinations that actually these destinations are partially building their market strategies, but also their communication strategies and business strategies on top of that information. So in the old world, these destinations like Zermatt Tourismus or Arosa Tourismus or Zurich Tourismus would go back to Switzerland Tourismus and ask, what is actually the data talking about Zurich, or what would be the intentions of tourists coming into Zurich? What is the brand perception of Zurich inside the US market, as an example, right? And here we had a bottleneck. We had really good data, but only few people who really could run these analysis. And that was the main problem we tried to address by building a digital assistant. We call it Heidi, written with an AI, but like the famous iconic fairy tale person, Heidi, which actually is nothing else than a data analyst. But it's a data analyst which understands these underlying market intelligent structured data and can now, based on a user question, search for the right information and then put analysis on top, like also prediction analysis or comparison analysis. And with that, come back with suggestions and interpretations based on the data, which are not hallucinating, which support the tourism destinations in making data-driven decisions.
So that's a huge advantage for the different tourist destinations, the regions within Switzerland, for Switzerland tourism as a whole, but also for the Swiss economy. And it is a competitive advantage for Switzerland against other competing countries for tourism.
Indeed. I think if we look into the market these days, is the data set that Switzerland Tourism crafts. What I have heard in the industry, other nations, they are jealous about it, right? So they would like to have a similar ground of information that they can base their data analysis on. But if we now look into the current situation, the marketing spend is getting reduced, and the support that also tourism destinations are getting, they have to be, let's say, more frugal or more strategic on where and what sort of campaigns they are running, and which in turns now calls to have a data-driven approach. Maybe in the old times, decisions on marketing campaigns to some extent have been based on gut feeling, on past experiences. But when we look at now what we have learned from Corona and even beyond, the gut feeling, I'm not sure it's really the best accurate or the best recommendation, right? It needs to get into data-drivenness. And that's where the big value sits in here. It's data-driven and it's easy accessible through a chatbot where then the destinations can actually start to ask their questions and drive wherever they want, go into details or keep it broad into different aspects. They can explore what that data tells them in order to then make better campaigns.
Dalit, what a beautiful case. Heidi, Switzerland's Heidi, making other tourist destinations internationally jealous.
Indeed, absolutely. And I think we have a lot to offer there. Not only technology, but real nice places and great human beings.
What does it take for, what other use cases do you see of such agents from your perspective, Dalit?
Well, we see a lot of potential in the topic of supply chain, procurement, financial. I mean, everywhere where you have rule-based or processes where you can support the workforce in doing their things more efficient, more effective.
So, Michael, what other cases beside the Switzerland tourism, the Heidi case, which is a truly spectacular case, what other cases would you like to mention that help us understand where the journey of Artifact is going?
Well, I mean, with Heidi, we really built up a capability with an agent that can work with structured data. Structured data such as data that is stored in tables. And as we all know, organizations like to store data in tables. So if we just look into my history on CRM, customer relationship management systems, there is tons of data on customers, on the interactions and so on. But also if we look into ERP systems, into SAPs and so on, there is a lot of transactional data actually stored in tables. So our view is now, if we have this capability that we get these chatbots now also dynamically be able to interact and analyze that data that is already there in a large amount, in good quality, it's already there. And we explain these systems how to access that data, how to analyze that data. There is a huge potential cross over the full value chain. Yeah, and then maybe the most easy one is to think about the next generation of business intelligence systems, where today in business intelligence, we look at reports, we look at dashboards, which is all good, and it's also justified to have them. But if we think about adding an agent on top, which now allows the user to dynamically interact with these reports, or to change the way the dashboard is being built, or to ask for a prediction, or to ask for a comparison to a competition. So that's when then it starts really to become interesting. And even beyond that, I'm just coming from a conference in AI and marketing where we talked about how could we use such a system like Heidi to actually look into marketing performance data. So all the data that also is being tracked from marketing campaigns, be that in Google Analytics or be that also on the different social media platforms like Meta, like on the reach, and the reactions that a particular post generated in what sort of segments. This is also structured data that is available to organizations to now optimize their marketing campaigns and to get recommendations on it. And I agree also with Dalit, in the supply chain, that's for me personally probably the biggest field of improvement area where such a solution could still help. There is so much data around the transactions, around the storage that is there or the inventory, what might already still be there in warehouses, and then having an agent that can dynamically analyze and then start to make recommendations when new goods should be or spare parts should be ordered, and then take the coordination on top of that automatically. There's a huge potential behind it.
But Michael, as with every use case, we need a lot of data, we need big data, and we need good quality data. If data quality is not there, even an agent cannot make a proper difference.
Well, that's right. That's right. Garbage in, garbage out. That rule is still true also with generative AI-based systems. But what I find interesting, if I have spoken now with a couple of IT departments of our customers, that's actually these systems and the capability that such a solution like Heidi can provide shows the importance of having a good data quality, because now suddenly all this amount of information that has been collected by organizations could generate value if the quality would be good. And now really at such a point, IT departments are using the story around Heidi to go into their business units and start to explain to the business why it is very important to put an emphasis and the focus on increasing and improving the data quality. As such, it could also be moving the needle so that organizations are starting to make bigger investments again into their governance and into their data governance and data quality initiative.
What does it take for businesses to tackle AI, to adopt AI agents? Isn't it, I reckon businesses go out there and say, we want AI. Now is the time. Let's put AI everywhere and we're going to be better and we're going to be more efficient. Is this realistic? Is this going to work, Michael?
Well, it's a good starting point to say let's go about it. At least from a strategic layer, that's also what we hear. But to be completely honest, there is still a big gap, I think, in terms of an understanding of what an organization need to build up, of what the technology actually is and what it can do. Yeah, so it is not that you can just apply artificial intelligence or these anonymous agent into any particular field and then they do magic. It's not. It's still work. It's as we have heard, we need to not only look into the data quality, we need to build up the right technology, we need to select the right algorithms. And last but not least, also in organizations, we need to actually invest quite heavily into the people so that they start to understand and start to also trust these systems and use as well the recommendations that come out of that. So there's an interesting study from Boston Consulting Group that has been published earlier this year, which actually talks about that 70% of any sort of an effort inside organizations should really be tackled towards empowering the people to use and leverage this AI. So I would say the will to start is a good start, but now organizations need to enable themselves to use it and then actually to start using it, And then final point, I would then say, as the technology can have possibly an impact in a lot of areas, it needs a strategic process to make a conscious decision. This is the right problem we want to tackle with this AI. And it's not a one fits all. It's like still very specific. We have to look, where do we want to apply an AI solution so that it also makes commercially sense in the back.
Dalit, it is a strategic approach, and that in that case needs to come from the very top. So we need an understanding at C-level in companies on AI, on the potential also of agents.
Indeed. And one of the most important thing is that it's driven by the leaders, that they onboard the whole company. What we see, one of the not so good use cases is when companies start, for the sake of AI, to implement a use case without onboarding their employee. People will always watch out for what doesn't work and will tell you, but it didn't work, and they challenge it. But if you really look for an AI strategy, and you will find use cases where first and foremost you have an ROI, you start to discuss with your employees, how can we do this better? How can we actually include you in the whole change management process? Then people will start to talk about, hey, did you thought about this or that? Or we can do this better. This didn't work. They're going to be on a constructive wave. And this needs to be led by the leaders.
That's exactly what needs to happen. And we're keeping our fingers crossed. So to put things into the national perspective and also into the global perspective, where is Switzerland headed? What is Switzerland's position? What is Switzerland's role? enhance Switzerland's potential regarding AI agents from your perspective, Michael?
So I'm just looking into a recent study that also has been published by the Gottlieb Duttweiler Institute. And what we can actually say is I think organizations have understood that AI is here and it will stay. So it's not a hype in a term that it comes and goes, but it will keep being here. And with that as well, looking into multiple studies right now, I think in particular in Switzerland, there is a shift over the acceptance. While probably 2-3 years ago, there was still, I would say, more hesitant, more critical thinking against AI. What we can also see in these studies is that the level of acceptance is increasing, which, if the trend would continue, we would assume that in 3 to 4 years, that it's not anymore such a big topic, and it's also clear to everybody that AI will be there, and with that as well, I feel we will see more use cases at a scalable level. I feel right now we are still in exploration, and we are right now on the on this plateau level from exploration towards implementing in a scale. I think 2025, 2026 will be the year of scale of AI type of solutions. So there will be more to come, be that in the front office, be it in the customer interactions, or also in the back office implementing AI use case. And last but not least, I hope as well that the innovation power that we have in Switzerland, I think we are still the leading country in terms of when it comes to research and publications and patenting. This innovation power, we have to also use it to create a Swiss-specific AI field, right? And I think there is good moves now also, especially in the greater area of Zurich, with a lot of AI organizations who are establishing themselves there. But I would also hope that we move more towards a Swiss-specific large language model and use this Swiss-specificness even further.
Dalit, that sounds like great potential to tap into.
Indeed. And you know how I would like to see Switzerland in the next very few years as an AI boutique. Our country has 99.7% of our companies are SMEs. So one way to be competitive is really to start to use those AI-driven solutions. So this is what I would like to see in very few years. Innovation turn into profit. And I would love to see our SMEs to profit from this AI-driven applications.
I'm saying thank you, Michael Wegmüller from Artifact. Thank you for being here, for being on AI Talk.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure.
And a huge thank you to Dalit Steiger-Göblinger, Swiss AI pioneer with Swiss Cognitive, for your thoughts, inputs, and reflections.
Thanks a lot, and a lot of success to Artifact. We need more such startups in Switzerland.
We're keeping our fingers crossed for you, Michael, and for the team.
Thank you.
And if you would like to hear more from our podcast, AI Talk, then subscribe on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or follow us in our DAB channel from Swiss Podcast. Further information also online at aipodcast.ch. Until next time, I'm Stefan Lindy. Stay curious.
AI Talk is produced by Newberry Media and Swiss Cognitive and supported by Innovation Zurich and Swiss ICT.
Want to discover why Zurich is one of Europe's leading innovation hubs? Visit innovation.zurich, your gateway to Zurich's vibrant innovation scene. Meet the people and ideas shaping the future, and see why the canton of Zurich is a top location for tech, science, and entrepreneurship in Europe.